Bellwork 9A. Before we can proceed with solving systems of equations graphically less than 9 notes, we need to make sure we are able to solve equations for slope-intercept form. When I say solve for slope-intercept form, that means we need to solve for y. We need to isolate the y variable. And it's going to look like this right here. So we want to solve equations so it's y equals. For some of these equations, it's a one-step multiplication, one-step division, one-step add or subtract. But then there are others, it's going to be 2 steps where you have to add or subtract first and then divide. So I'm going to walk you through all of Bellwork 9A and then Bellwork 9B, which is very similar and done the same way as 9A. You'll be on your own. So let's look at question 1. If I want to isolate the y, I find the y term. Well, right here's my y term, and the y term is by itself on one side of the equation. So it's just 3y, which means the only thing I need to do is get rid of that coefficient of 3. Well, if that is multiplication, then I'm going to need to divide. So I want to divide both sides by 3. Now, normally you would divide both sides by 3 like this. However, we don't want to divide this that way. That's not wrong, and actually that's the correct way of writing it. But an easier way of looking at it is when you divide both sides by 3, you're dividing everything by 3. So that means this term is going to be divided by 3, and this term is going to be divided by 3. Now notice I put the line under this plus sign. The only reason to do that, and I hope you get in the habit of doing that, is so you don't forget the sign in front of the number. It wouldn't have really mattered in this one because that means the 21 is positive. But if that said minus 21, that means the 21 would be negative. So you want to be very careful with your signs. All right, so I'm going to cancel the 3's, bring down the y, bring down my equal sign, and now I'm going to simplify these using the calculator. You want to use the fraction button. In other words, I'm going to put in -2, press the fraction button, and then put in 3, hit enter. Now, we want it as fractions, no decimals, we want fractions. So don't forget to hit that button that's beside the equal sign. So that means that -2/3 does not reduce. So I'm going to write this as y equals -2/3 x. And now I'm going to do 21 over 3. Hit enter. And that is +7. Since it's +7, I put +7. So the equation in problem number 1, put into slope-intercept form, is y equals -2/3 x plus 7. Pause your video, make sure you have all of that written down. All right, example 2. Again, here's my y term. The only thing with the y is its coefficient of -4. I don't have anything other terms with it, so the only thing I need to do is the opposite of multiplication, which is division. So I'm going to divide, again, both sides by -4. But on this side, instead of writing one big division bar, I'm going to break it down and write it down as 6x divided by -4 and -16 divided by -4. It's very careful that you keep the negative sign with the 16. All right, so I'll cancel out the 4's, bring down the y and my equal sign. So I have 6 over -4, enter, change it back to a fraction, and we get -3/2. So -3/2 x. Then I'm going to take -16, don't forget to clear it, -16 over -4. -16 over -4 is +4. So the equation for problem number 2, simplified into slope-intercept form, is y equals negative 3/2 x plus 4. Make sure you have all that written down. Now, before we move on to question number 3, I want you to write this down. I want you to put no decimals. And then use the fraction button, which is the N/D button. We don't want decimals, we want to leave them as fractions. All right, for number 3, find my y term. Well, right here is my y term, and if you look at that y term, it is not by itself. You also have the x term on this side. So this is a two-step problem. When x and y, or y and the constant term, if there's more than one term on the same side as the y, then it is a two-step problem. So the first thing I want to do is get rid of this 8x by taking it to the other side of the equation. Well, since it is positive 8x, I'm going to subtract 8x from both sides. Sorry about that. Now, one more time. Okay. Notice how I wrote this a little different over here? Notice how I didn't completely line it up? There's a reason for that. Negative 8x is a variable term. Negative 16 is a constant term, meaning they are not like terms. They are not like terms, and because they're not like terms, that means I cannot combine them. So I would like you to write this. I want you to put not like terms. And then put not in all capital letters, underline it, cannot combine. Since we can't combine them, we simply just bring them down. Just like we did with multi-step equations. If you can't combine it, just bring it down. So the 8x's will cancel. I'll bring down my 2y, my equal sign. And when you bring it down, always put the constant term last. So I want my variable term x first and my constant term last. And now this becomes a one-step equation. This is multiplication. The opposite of multiplication is division. So I'm going to divide everything by 2. Please be careful with your signs. So these will cancel. All right. Bring down the y, the equal sign. Clear that out. Negative 8 over 2 is negative 4. So this will be negative 4x. Clear it out. Negative 16 over 2. And I get negative 8. So, number 3 is a two-step problem because x and y are on the same side. So I had to take the x term to the right side of the equation first and then divide everything by the coefficient of y, getting y equals negative 4x minus 8. All right, so pause your video. Make sure you have everything written down. If you have any questions on 1 through 3, please let me know.